The Zoom is not shortly.
Hello. Hi. Oh, sorry, I am heading down to the shoal, running a few minutes late, so bear with me. I didn't get down yet. Oh, hey, can people hear me? Oops. Let's see. Okay, for those of you on Zoom, I am running a little bit late. I am heading down to the shoal, so it's going to be like another 5 minutes or a little bit more, maybe. Just trying to drive. All right, everybody, we are going to be starting shortly. Hello. Hi, sorry, I'm so late. How are you? Oh, wow, the heat is, I can feel that. How are you? Nice to see you. Okay, 1 second. We are, we are coming. Just hang on. We're just getting food out for those who have come in person. If anybody, hi Sharon. Nice to see you. Hi James.
You wouldn't believe it, but I came here at 7.
Oh, wow. Well, better early.
Better early than never.
Um,
Well, usually better late than never.
yeah. I came in that, but I thought oh, no, I can share that. Um, what was I just gonna say? I was just gonna say, oh, if anybody wants hot drink, that machine, that machine, hot water, that chocolate chip.
Come here, lovey.
Because I just got this app that shows, look at this, shows all the stars. You just go outside and it shows where they are right now.
Oh, wow, that's next week's fun.
Yeah.
We're doing eight. Oh, so it has, it has a kid's, hey. Oh, this at least you're here. Okay.
Drove all the way to the snow in one day. One day.
Wait, sorry, what? Yeah, whenever you're so that's perfectly fine. Just a second. Put these out. So I wanted to show a video, and because I'm on Zoom, I can show it on my phone because I'm on Zoom. But I sent it to Crystal, who was going to bring a laptop and show it in big. And as she was on her way, she would do the as she was on her way, her, what do you call it, her page. It was made it. So I'm gonna show the video. Can I send it to somebody and look at it on your phone? Yeah,
That's why it's better for each child.
can I show it on somebody's phone? Or can I show it on somebody's phone?
Yeah, sure.
You can sit there. Jen. Yeah. This one, somebody who knows technology. Like, is anybody? Oh, how would it help if it's on YouTube? How would that make it bigger? Oh, you're saying that you could find it. It is on YouTube, but I'll send you the link. Oh, wow. So nice to see so many of you on Zoom. Sorry. If you were here in person, you would see why it took so long. We have cookies and all this stuff, so just to entice you for next time. Okay, so we were going to start off with showing a video, and I'm going to the person who was going to bring the laptop and show it so that I could stay on Zoom is going to be a doula right now with her baby. So I am going to send it to somebody else. Hang on. No, don't open YouTube. I'm just going to send it to you on WhatsApp. Let me just, okay.
I called the WhatsApp for so long.
Okay, here, I'm sending it to you. Sorry. No. No, he didn't get, he goes to the Moore Park College. There we go. I just sent it to you. Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone. This is very exciting. For those of you who are cold, the heat is really working if you sit here. So it will warm up shortly. I do want to record because a lot of people ask me to record. I should have prepared all this before, but I was preparing this up until. Oh, we could do that. But I first of all want to thank everybody who's here in person. We have lots of people on Zoom, but I love seeing people and like talking to real people. And it is more interactive that way also. This is our neighbor Sharon. So this is cool to have you join us and everybody else, of course. And just one, not disclaimer, but explanation before we start is I am no scientist and I am not like the type of person who's into science and into all that stuff. Like it doesn't really talk to me usually. And so in science class, you know, I did it. I went through it and we learned all of these things about Torah and science, but it just wasn't my thing I was so into. And I've heard many speakers and usually it would just go over my head. And this past summer, I went to the National Jewish Retreat in Florida, and there was a speaker there who was a rabbi and a scientist, and he used to not be religious, and he was a rocket scientist. He did a lot of incredible, crazy things. You can look him up online at Joshua Krish. And he spoke all about all of these topics of Torah and science. Incredible stuff. So he explained it in such a like everything that he spoke about. He spoke about like the Dead Sea Scrolls. He spoke about the age of the universe. He spoke about so many different topics. And each time I was like, wow, like I was like just incredibly wowed. And because I was inspired, I said, I'm going to give these topics over. So at first I was thinking, why should I give them over? I mean, we're not the biggest community that I could bring him out to speak because he, you know, it's kind of expensive. So I figured if I take what he gives and then I'll just learn it and give it over, then I'll be able to impart what he did. But the problem was that I did look at all of his topics and chose the ones that I thought were the most interesting. But I didn't realize that he didn't have any of them recorded. So fast forward to yesterday or 2 days ago when I was like, oh, I should probably prepare. he didn't have anything. So I did a lot of hours of research, and the hardest part is putting it all together in a flowing way, because you get so many different. So yes, this is many hours of research. So you're going to get from all different. This is all the Torah view and the Chabad view, but just for lots of different angles. So what I did want to share with you is that the Rebbe teaches us that when you know Aleph, you could teach Aleph. So nobody has to feel like, oh, I'm not a Rebbetzin, I'm not a rabbi. Who am I to give over Torah, or who am I to teach anything? I'm here to say that even though I'm a Rebbetzin, I wouldn't usually give over a science topic, but if I could learn it, whatever you could give to others. So you don't have to know the vast topic. And so if anybody has questions, please keep it to the end, just because I want to get through. Somehow it's 6 pages long. I hope we get through it. If you have questions, or when you have questions, just jot it down. We can get some more pens. It's in the drawer right at the front. Thank you, Lisa. And I will try my best to answer. And I will say that I might not know the answer, but I do have people to ask that will know the answers. So I will answer to the best of my ability. Okay. So
Come here.
I'm gonna mute those of you who are on and I feel really bad because you guys don't have the handout. So how do you do an attachment? Oh my goodness. How am I going to do this for all the Zoom members? Okay, I'm going to call for all the Zoom people. It's going to be much harder to follow without the handout. So I'm going to give me a second. I'm going to call my husband and ask him, maybe he could figure out a way to put it on the chat or something. So give me. All right, my dear friends on Zoom. So when you see something in the chat, then just open that and you could follow along. Okay, so page. All right, so we are going to start with we're going to start with a video, and can I put it here so I could show it on the Zoom? Actually, I don't know how that will work. It will look a little weird. Okay, so then I'm going to put the link on the chat that you could watch the video after, because we're going to play it live. No, he's going to play it live here. So you could just put it, should I put it here so more people could see from here, or? Perfect. That's perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna. Okay, let's do it. So I don't think people can hear from you. Is that the highest it goes? Okay, so can we put it in the middle? Let's.
There was mosquito truck on the road spraying pesticide. It comes drifting across the road like a cloud drifting all the boys.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna send it on I'm just gonna send it after. It's an amazing video, so I'll just send it after. Okay, let's start with the. Yeah, I'm just gonna send that link after to all the people. You know what? I'll take a screenshot so I know who's on here. Okay, so we got aliens, space, and Torah. So this has been a really interesting question. Why do I hear noises? I thought I muted everyone. So we got to try this again. It's always something when you do Zoom, right? Let me just do participants, mute all. Okay, there we go. We are back. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. There we go. Okay, so the first source in the Torah comes from Rambam, Maimonides. The Rambam has 13 books of everything that has to do with the Torah, and the first 4 chapters of one of those books is called Yesodei HaTorah, the foundations of the Torah. And as we see that this is a foundation, it talks all about the planets and the stars having a form of intelligence. And so it depends. One second, let me just see. That's why I'm reading the handout and not my notes. Because I was like, wait, I thought I prepared jokes. We always have to start a class with a joke. So joke number 1, as you may have noticed, okay, I'm so sorry to keep making interruptions, but I was asked to record this. Is there somebody? I don't want to take up more time. You do have to leave at 8:30 though. So, okay. So, is there somebody who you know how to do this stuff, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Can we? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. When we call for 7:30, then we start at 7:45. That's the way. Oh my gosh. You're really ancient. Wow. You're one of the few. All right. As soon as we get, let's see who gets the first. Okay. So aliens and space. So as you may have noticed, that whenever scientists get together to talk and use technology to talk about the satellites and search about life, about human life, like on Earth, the satellites are always pointing outwards. So when we're talking about intelligence, instead of pointing inwards, it's talking outwards. No, okay, never mind. Let's try joke 2. So that one didn't go over so well. Perfect. So joke number 2, there was a rabbi, a priest, and a minister, and they're going on a trip to outer space. And so they go and they have an amazing time. They come back and everybody says, okay, tell us what it was like. So the priest says, oh my goodness, like I have no words to explain this celestial beings and all these. It was incredible. God is amazing. Like, wow, that was okay, great. And to the minister, yeah, tell us what was it like? Oh, incredible. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. I saw, spaceships and all of these UFOs, and it was incredible. And the rabbi, they came and talked to him. They see him shaking. He's red, he's blue, he's black, he's all these colors in one. He's like sweating. Rabbi, what's going on with you? And he's like, I just had to keep doing chakras, praying the whole day because we just kept going, the morning, noon, evening. The times kept going. I was just praying the entire time. And last but not least, the astronauts finally, after all of these years of trying to get to space, they finally land on space and say, wow, we are the first ones. They're about to put their flag there as the first ones to have got to outer space. And all of a sudden, they see somebody with a black hat and black coat running towards them. And they're like, what's going on? We thought we were the first ones. And it was a Chabad rabbi and said, did you put tefillin on today? So the question is there life in outer space? Do aliens exist? Is there this whole concept of space, all outer space and all of the UFOs and everything else? So we are going to try to cover that all today. So we're going to try to go a little bit quickly. And here we go. Number one, the sources in Torah, there are four. Well, there's probably many more. These are the four main ones. So the Rambam, Maimonides, in the first four chapters of his book Yesodei HaTorah, which means the foundations of the Torah, he explains that planets and stars have a form of intelligence, and it maybe can explain it as angels that control the planets. So it really depends how you define aliens. If you're going to say, are aliens those green creatures with those big ears, then that's just somebody's imagination who like thought of aliens and put them as. But if you're going to say are aliens something that is not a regular human, then the Maimonides explains that that planets and stars were a creation. On day 4 of creation, God created the moon, the stars, the planets, the whole solar system, and with that came all of these spatial creations. And so angels were also created on that day, and angels are considered spatial like creations because they're not humans and they're not God, so they have to be some sort of creation, and so they're in that category of like, so you can say that we wouldn't call them aliens, but they are angels. So how does this happen? Because I'm going to say this very quickly because it's a whole entire class in itself. There are 4 universes, 4 worlds. The way that God created the world is Atzilot, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. 4 worlds. We are the lowest level. Come join us. Come sit down. And here's a handout. Come sit at the table. Here's a handout. So there are 4 worlds in which God and how Hashem created our whole entire universe. And like we learned in our Tuesday morning class, and you're also going to learn in the Tanya Wednesday night class with Rabbi Shimi, that the reason why God had to create 4 universes is because God is so great and vast that we can't contain anything. It's just too much for us, for our intellect, for our world. And so therefore God had to condense and contract so much until it comes to our world. So in other words, the God is Atzilut is the highest level. Not even the highest being can, even an angel can't be there because God is too great. But then in the next level, the angels are able to be there because it's more God's God's everything is too powerful, but it contracts. And like I give an example of kind of like a light bulb with wattage. Like if it could only take a certain amount of wattage and you put something higher in it, it's just going to explode, right? So if God would have all of his power in this world, it's just like the Jews in the times of the 10 commandments, their souls left their bodies. They weren't able to contain God. So anyway, as I was saying, we're going to go through this quickly, that there are 4 basic universes. And within that, there's hundreds of thousands of intermediate worlds that are inhabited by spiritual forces of intellect. So it's just like endless. There's so many. And that's where the angels fall in. So now that's the Maimonides says that, and he was asked directly, do you believe in actual creations? And Maimonides answered that God created the world in 6 days, right? 6 days of creation. As we said, that on the 4th day is when the solar system and the heavens was created, the sun, moon, and stars and constellations. But on day 6, it culminated with the creation of Adam and Eve. And it goes into detail about how Adam and Eve were created, and it doesn't say anything else about any other created being. And so therefore, in the Torah's account, it doesn't show that there's room for these other beings. However, because of the whole idea of space and angelic creations, he doesn't rule it out. It could be that it is a possibility. So you can't rule it out, but the greater probability is that our tradition doesn't acknowledge them. Okay, so that's Maimonides. Now we go to number 2. there's several Torah scholars of the past generations have discussed the possibility of life on other planets. Rabbi Chasdai Crescas, he lived in Spain. He lived from 1340 to 1411. He wrote that there is nothing anywhere in the Torah that would negate such a possibility. So he was, who was this man? He was the student of one of the really great Talmudists. His name was the Ran. He was this scholar whose name is Rabbi Chasdai. He was called a Gaon. That means like a giant in Torah. He lived in Barcelona. He was Rosh Yeshiva, which means he was like the head of like all of these students. He was a Rav, which means you got the rabbis and then you got the head rabbis. He was like the top rabbi. He was a scholar and he was also a philosopher, and he wrote many books. In the fourth part of his book, he says that I don't know for sure if they exist, like these beings, but it is possible. And he says that it's not a contradiction to the Torah, because as we're going to learn about it more shortly. But he doesn't say exactly what it is. He just says that it's not ruled out. Okay, now we get to number 3. This is the only explicit reference of possibility of life on other planets. So this is the story of Devorah. My name's this is the prophetess Devorah and Sisera. Has anybody ever heard of this or learned about it in the prophets? Okay, so Devorah was a prophetess. She was a judge. She was a warrior. And there was a general at that time named Barak. He was the Jewish general. And at that time, Sisera was this mighty emperor, and he decided he did not like the Jews. Oh my gosh, what a surprise. That never happened before, right? So he said he was going to take everyone to battle. And General Barak came to Devorah. Look at that. The general, the man, is coming to prophetess for. Just have to throw that in there. And so she says, God is going to be with you. You have no reason to fear. You are going to win over the mighty Sisera. And Barak says, you know what? Can you join me in battle? I'll be more confident if you join me. And so she does. And they are victorious. And after this war, after the fall of Sisera, which by the way happened through Yael, through a woman, she was the one who killed him. At the end of this whole victory, she sings a song of thanks to God. It's called Shira Devorah, and it comes from the Haftorah of Parshat Beshalach, which is in the Shemot in Exodus. So I'm going to ask, if you want to read this is straight from the Haftorah. So do you want to read verse 19?
The king came and then fought the kings of Canaan in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
They took no gain of money.
Thank you. Holly, you want to do 20?
And heavens fought, the stars from their courses fought against Sisera.
Thank
The
you.
brook Kishon slipped in a way, that ancient brook, the brook Kishon, bid down Omar's soul. Swim.
Then he counted the wheels of horses by reason of the fencings of their mighty ones.
May Rose.
You inhabit habitat. Therefore,
Thereof.
thereof, because they came not to the aid of the Lord, against the mighty.
Okay, so these are just verses of Devorah's song. So as you can see from verse 19, it says about verse 20, it says from heaven they fought. And then in verse 23, it says, curse you, Meroz. I'm just repeating it for those on Zoom. Curse you, Meroz, that the messenger of the Lord. Curse you bitterly, you inhabitants thereof, because they came not to the aid of the Lord, against the mighty. So the Gemara, the Talmud asks, who is Meroz? Well, who are we talking about? Why is she cursing this? Who is it? So there's two opinions, just like in any good Talmud, there's always any good Jew. You have two Jews, 5 opinions, one Jew, 3 opinions. So we have two opinions. The first opinion is that he was a great warrior. His name was Meroz. So basically what was happening here, sorry, just for a tiny backstory, is that Devorah, as she's doing her song, she's saying thank you to God. That's the whole beginning, the first verses. And then when she comes to these verses, she is cursing she's being upset at all of the tribes that did not come to help. Many of the tribes did come to help, and then there were some that didn't. And then she specifically curses Meroz. And so what did he do wrong? Who is that? And so the Talmud explains that, number one, it could be a great warrior, that there were lots of warriors and all the tribes and all these people. And this was one of the warriors who she was counting on, and he just didn't show up. So that is opinion number one. Number two says that it's the inhabitants of the star that's called Meroz. So in other words, Meroz is actually a star. And so Meroz actually sounds like Mars. And that's not just a joke, like that's where Mars gets its name, from Meroz. And it suggests that there is life there from this sentence. Why? Because the Talmud explains that a star is considered anything that's not the sun, the moon, or the earth. So it could be a planet, it could be a star, it could be any moving large extraterrestrial body is called a star. So basically what it's saying is, if you see in verse 20, it said from heaven they fought, the stars from their courses fought against Sisera. So if you don't see verse 23, you might think, oh, she's just using poetic license and talking about the stars and the heavens, that God helped. But because she uses 23 and saying that Meroz is actually a star, it shows that it's connected, that it was actually the inhabitants of this star, which we could also say is a planet or constellation, actually came, or were supposed to come, and she's cursing them because they didn't come. So here's a reference to actual life, like people, like beings that could have come to this battle. So now the Rebbe always says, why do we need to have two explanations? Why can't we just have one explanation? And the Rebbe says that whenever there's two explanations or more than two, it's because one is not satisfactory, that we're not going to get all the answers that we need just from one. And so if there's two, it's because we're going to get to learn more about the issue at hand than if we just had one explanation. So if you're going to say that it's number one, that it's just a city or a mighty leader, then it kind of makes more sense, right? Because it sounds more plausible than it being a star. But there's no record anywhere about this city or the leader. The only time it's written anywhere in the whole Tanakh is right here about this cursed as Meroz. If it was actually a mighty warrior, it would say it's somewhere else, right? We would know about it. So and also from this context, because as I explained to you before, in that second verse, it says about the stars and fighting from the heavens. So in that context, it looks like it would actually mean the star. So that's why we need both explanations. So so how does this work? If somebody would go outside, I saw you go outside with your phone, you could actually see the stars, right? Abraham was given a promise that his children would be as many as the stars and the sand. So we know that there is countless stars. There are hundreds, billions, thousands of stars, right? We don't know. Hashem actually named every single star because they represent us. Each Jew is a star. So Hashem gave them names, but it's impossible to know all these stars and to know where they are, what they are, all about them. It's impossible because there's so many of them. So therefore, it makes more sense that it would be a star because that we don't know enough about. In other words, it's explaining why there's two explanations. The first one doesn't make as much sense just because we've never heard of a person or a city named Meroz. But the second one would make more sense because there are so many stars that we don't know about, because that was the promise given to Abraham. Everyone following? So now the Talmud says that every blade of grass and every entity has a purpose and a reason, and it actually has an angel that is on top of it. We're on page 2. Every every single created being, not just a being, but any entity has an angel that is directly in charge of that being. So even if it's a blade of grass, just parenthetically, the Rebbe taught us that you're not supposed to just, like, let's say you're talking and just playing with like a piece of a flower. You're not supposed to just rip it for no reason. Every single thing that Hashem created, that God has a purpose. And so if you're going to use it for a purpose, like if you're going to grind it into be, some herbal medicine, then of course that's what it's for. But you're not supposed to just mindlessly, step on flowers or right. Like we could always talk about how the Hayom Yom, the day for day, it says that the Baal Shem Tov was once walking with his students in the field, and they were just walking on top of leaves. And the Baal Shem Tov said, I want you to step away from that leaf, pick it up and see what's underneath. And he saw a worm. And the Baal Shem Tov said that since the beginning of creation, God had made it that today, that this leaf should fall right here on this little worm so that it could be protected. So we see that every single thing, every single part of God, from the greatest, galaxy to the tiny little worm under a leaf, is in God's hands. So that was just parenthetical. So you may say that it's the spiritual being that's in charge of the star, that, oh, he did bad. That's the person in charge, the angel in charge of the star of Meroz. He just didn't come to the war. He fell asleep, right? But it says specifically, cursed are the inhabitants, if you see in the text, right? So that curse you bitterly, you inhabitants thereof. So since it specifically is talking about the inhabitants, it's showing here a very, very strong possibility that there are objects in space or aliens that chose not to come and help. Okay, now if you look, so now we take a little step away and say, just think about how incredible our universe and how diverse our universe is, and all the different types of creations. Forget people, just every type of animal, mammal, sea creation, all of the things that Hashem created is absolutely, like, it's amazing, just you can't explain it. So just as 2 examples that I picked up over here is, the scientists recently discovered these worms. They're related to earthworms that live in a volcanic vents deep in the Pacific Ocean that are 600 degrees Fahrenheit. That means 600 degrees, like, if you put a matzah, it would burn in 1 second. 600 degrees is really hot, and these earthworms are just able to live perfectly, right? And then there's this thing, there's arsenic, a deadly poison in South Africa. They found these deep gold mines with water was leaking out of the rock, and there are microbes that lived in this pool of water. They were able to live off the arsenic, which is actual poison. And so they were able to look at it under a microscope and see all of these living things. So it basically defies nature. So God created within this world things that defy his own nature that he set up, right? Now, we all take for granted things that we see every day, that's funny that Crystal just went to deliver a baby, because I just put it in the notes because I want you to read out loud. We all know in theory about how miraculous the birth of a baby is, but it's just that we see it every single day, all the time, that we just take it for granted. So if would you like to read, Finn? Yes.
So the blood is circulating. And there's a tube connected to the aorta, the pulmonary artery. Intended to work, its lungs have to expand the hole in its heart, and the tube has to be off. fact, 67 different steps happen. Miraculously,
It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. It's mind-boggling, like how amazing that, like, you know, we really only appreciate things when we don't have them. You know, like when you have a cold, like I do, then we appreciate when you could breathe normally. So, you know, when God forbid there's an issue with the baby, then, you know, all of a sudden you realize when the baby's in NICU, you're like, wow, this is like incredible. But just everything that happens every second. So what is science? Science is basically that we understand what happens, the cause and effect, that it happens over and over again, and we're able to prove how it happens. But God is just working through nature and through science. So really, really everything is God. So the point here is that if God is able to make all of these impossible, it's really impossible for a baby to be born from a seed and in from in the mother's womb, right? If God could make that happen and these earthworms survive in 600 degrees, then what's the big deal for God to be able to create alien or Martians or any other space creature, right? So in other words, the idea, it doesn't mean yes or no. It just means, how could we even think that God can't do that? God's able to do anything. So they, our tax dollars are going to the trillions and trillions of dollars that they've already spent trying to find life on Mars. And so theologically, Judaism has no problem with the premise that there might be life on other planets, but we'll have to wait and find out to prove it, because all the trillions of dollars that they've used, they still haven't been able to prove it, that there's life on Mars. They have lots of. So yeah.
like small,
Yeah,
like super small, like
I believe that.
single cell organisms.
So they have done lots of research on facets, but they've nothing to say that there's actual like creatures there. Okay, so um, so there was this professor, and here I wrote it here. So Lisa, do you want to read that?
Yeah. Look, Dr. Green, look for
Oh, so if you want to read who he was, like where the star is, Dr. Velvel Green.
in their project determine if there was life on Mars.
Yeah,
He
you
asked
said
the
yes.
Rebbe privately if this was something he could be doing. The Rebbe replied,
You want to continue, Rachel?
Dr. Dr. Green, look for life on Mars. And if you don't find it there, look somewhere else in the universe for it. But never stop looking, because for you to sit here and say there is no life outside of planet Earth is to put limitations on the Creator. And that is not something any of his creatures can do.
So this is really, really important. This is really important because I don't know if you guys are able to follow in the handout, and I don't know if you're able to hear. So I guess I should read, because I don't know if you guys could all hear. Basically, well, everyone's muted, but and there's no actual video besides Rena. Rena, can you hear? Do you only, but not people. Okay. So I'm just going to repeat this one because it's really important. The Rebbe said to Dr. Green, who was this, he was asked to find life on Mars, and he spent lots and lots of time and money on it. And here Dr. Green was thinking, you know, he's a Jew, and he was actually he was almost like an atheist, like he didn't believe. And he would go to, somebody told him about the Rebbe, and he was like, oh, you know, the Rebbe's just a great man, he doesn't know. He brought the Rebbe a book of things that he worked on for like years and years and years, and the Rebbe just opened it up, pointed to something and said, oh, but over here you forgot to do da da da, and like that became Like he was just like blown away. Like, here you have this great rabbi who like knew everything about science and astronomy, astrology, everything. So after he became religious and he was working for NASA, and they asked him to find if there's like Mars, he went to the Rebbe and said, well, are we allowed to do this? Do we believe it? So this is a very, very strong thing that the Rebbe said. The Rebbe replied, Dr. Green, look on Mars, and if you don't find it there, look somewhere else in the universe for it. But never stop looking, because for you to sit here and say there is no life outside of planet Earth is to put limitations on the Creator, and that is not something any of his creatures can do. That's very, very powerful, because that's kind of what we were saying before. God could do anything. So if we're saying that we're not going to keep searching, then that's saying that God can't put, So that's why the Rebbe said to keep on searching and keep on learning. And in fact, when you watch the video, which I wanted to start with, it's very interesting because the Rebbe told Dr. Green to do that, but then there was somebody else who asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave a different answer. So I want you to watch it. It was pretty amazing. Actually, we're going to cover it later, so I'll touch on it now. That the Rebbe said, don't spend your time talking about outer space. We should be spending our time about what's going on here in our world. So is that the Rebbe knew his customers that Dr. Green is an actual license. And so the Rebbe was saying, use your job to serve God. So keep on looking. And all the other people who were writing to the Rebbe was saying to them, don't spend your time doing that, because that's taking you away from being in this world. We don't want to be spending all our time like looking at what's going on in other worlds. So the Rebbe's point is about the moral intelligence. That Torah is our intelligence, and it was given to all human. The Torah is not just for Jewish people. Included in the 613 laws is also the 7 Noahide laws, which are so. It just restarted. Hopefully that works. Okay. Where are you up to? So it includes the seven Noahide laws. So that means that human intelligence is all about having the choice between morals and values, freedom to choose beyond instincts and genetics. And that is something that only humans have. That's of any other celestial beings. So angels, for example, are on a higher level than us in terms of spiritual fulfillment and what they're able to accomplish and how they are one with God. We can't see God. God's completely concealed from us. The angels are able to communicate, but at the same time, they don't have free will. So whatever God said, they got to do. We have God's Torah, but yet sometimes we don't always do exactly what it says in the Torah. So we have free choice. This is a really, really important topic, because it says there is no free person except for the person who has the Torah. What does that mean? That the Torah is our guidebook. The Torah is our law. So even when we're not just saying that the Torah means keeping Shabbat and keeping kosher. That's not the Torah. The Torah includes all of intelligence of everything in the world. Everything is included in the Torah. God created the Torah before he created the world. He looked in order to create it of every single thing that exists. In order to have the Torah as an intelligence, it means that you have free choice. Therefore, any being that is not a human like us on this earth, they were not there at Mount Sinai, because that we are told in the Torah explicitly that it was all of the living beings were given the Torah at Mount Sinai. And there's only one Torah. There was no copy. And therefore, this explanation is saying that there's no physical human form on these other planets. So can there be other beings or creations? Yes, there can be, but there can't be any human on that planet. Why? Because a human means having free choice, and you can't have free choice unless you have the Torah. You see the A equals B, B equals C. So therefore, it says like it rules out that there cannot be human life, like, and human means being able to have free choice. You can't have human life on another planet. So now it raises this question. If we go back to this Song of Devorah, she said she's cursing Meroz, who the inhabitants of the star, that they didn't come to battle. But now if we go with this explanation that they don't have free choice, they're just angels, or so then why would she be upset at them? They don't have free choice. How were they able to choose to come to war or not? Right? It was just about if God said it. So there's two possibilities. Number one, that they must have they need to know about the giving of the Torah. So in other words, maybe they could get the Torah if they knew about it, right? Because we were saying the Torah was only given once. So they needed to get that notice. So maybe there was some form of telepathy for them to know about the Torah. Like we as humans, because we're all reincarnations of the souls that got the Torah, we were given the notice. God is giving the Torah. We were all there. Maybe these are all possibilities because we don't know for sure, but maybe they were telepathically invited to come and their being was there at Mount Sinai. Or number two, that we don't know the level of technology that they had back then. Like, for example, we always learn about the pyramids, right? How the heck did they make pyramids? Like without all the stuff we have, all the technology, mathematics, astronomy, all the stuff we know today, how did they make those pyramids? So here they were making pyramids back then without everything that we have today. So we don't know that level of technology that they had back then. So there's this fascinating letter that was written by the Rebbe Rashav, the fifth Chabad Rebbe. And he wrote basically that because the time had not yet come for all of the new technologies to happen, like basically the way God works is that as the time needs something, that's how it develops. So back in those days, they didn't need everything. That's how God was so much more revealed in the world. That's how they were able to see the miracles, right? Like the splitting of the Red Sea. We have miracles every single moment happening, but it all is clothed with the nature, right? In those days, they were able to see the plagues. They were able to see these supernatural things happening. And that's because in those days, they were able to handle God a lot more. Nowadays, we just see a lot more of nature happening, and God puts into nature all of the technology and all of these new things going on that I don't know half the things that exist. We just had a college Shabbat dinner, and they were telling us about some new what was it? The meta glasses. So yeah, there's a lot of new stuff every day coming out. So God gave us this wisdom of technology so that nowadays we can use that to spread godliness. That is why Hashem made all this technology come out nowadays, so that we can use, even though we're not seeing God like on this level that they did back then, we're able to like see the incredible miracles through nature with nature and science that is really God, just that it's enclosed in nature, right? So so now that God gave us the wisdom of technology, this is another possibility. Maybe there was a group that figured out how to travel, and maybe they figured out how to get to the Torah. Maybe they did this like space travel, or how nowadays there's like all of these fairy tales and about like time travel, like going back in time. So maybe they were able to figure it out. We don't know about how their technology was. Okay, so now we're taking a step away. We're going to talk about the earliest mention of space travel in the Torah. There was a great Gaon. His name was, we're at the bottom of page 2. Great Gaon. His name was Rabbi Yonasan Eifshitz. He lived from 1690 to 1790. And he speaks about the Tower of Babel, of Babylon. After the flood, the generation that came after that, they said, oh, God made the flood. Let's see if we can get away from God. And they built this really, really tall tower because they were thinking we could just be on this really tall tower and God can't get to us. Now, what were they thinking? Why would they make this tower? Obviously, God could get to them. So this is what Rabbi Yonasan says. This is page 3. Oh, I didn't write it, so I'll tell you. They thought that God only has power to bring floods on earth, for like in our weather system. So they thought if we could go to a place that's beyond the weather system, because they didn't really think it through, like with the whole survival issues situation, but they thought of this way that they could get a huge tower and then launch a ship without the friction of the atmosphere and be able to leave our earth. So that's what they were really thinking. They wanted to make this large tower in order to make a ship or some type of vehicle to be able to go far away from the earth. So it wasn't that they were hiding from God. They were trying to get away from the atmosphere. Like the earth has its limitations and gravitational pull and all that. They were trying to go out from there and go out of the weather constraints. And so it's just so interesting that is the first time we learn about the idea of space travel, like going out of our Earth planet and going to space. So Rabbi Yonasan Ives just suggests that if you build a large launching pad and use a lot of gunpowder, then you can get the vehicle to go where it won't come back to Earth. So it could escape gravity. He doesn't talk about the breathing issues and all the other situations about that, but he's just bringing it as a possibility, not that they actually did this, right? This is not, just to clarify, this is not saying that this is what they did. He doesn't know that this is what they did. He was saying it as a theory that could be the first time we hear about space travel. So the point is that the thinking is there. Science fiction is just reality delayed. All those science fiction movies and books and all that stuff, it's all happening now, right? Like all of these things, like, well, not today's science fiction, but like 50 years ago, all the science fiction is really like is all happening now, right? Like things that we grew up with. Please hold the question just because we're recording and doing Zoom. So we'll write it down and we'll do it at the end. So in Judaism, we have to be prepared for every possibility. So the Rebbe spoke about when he was talking about Maimonides, he said that any possible human problem must be solvable in the Torah. That means that the Torah is the guidebook for the whole world, as I said before. So anything that comes up the answer has to be in the Torah. And when I say Torah, it doesn't just mean the 5 books of Moses. It means the whole Tanakh. It means the oral Torah, the written Torah, everything. So even in the Torah, so the Rebbe spoke about, one of the examples that he gave is that it speaks about in the Torah about the times of holidays when you're in space. So this is a mention that the Rebbe spoke about space, like what would happen if you go to the North Pole, right? There's different time zones. And so the Rebbe spoke about like what you would do for like counting the 49 days of the Omer, or what you would do for morning, afternoon, and evening prayers. So in other words, the Rebbe spoke about the concept that you could be going to space. So if you look at science fiction, there's creatures or aliens that they either look friendly or evil. We tend to define them usually as somewhat human. So the law of the Torah is the totality of intelligence and morality for every human, like we said before, and it includes the 7 Noahide laws. So it is every human. The Torah, as I said, is not just for Jewish people. It's a moral, ethical society. So what kind of creature would be considered human to have protection of the law? What does protection of the law mean? There's all of these halachot, all these laws about what needs to be done for a human, like, for example, pulling the plug, or like the preservation of life, and like all of these kind of things. There are so many details and laws about the preservation of life, because human life is the most important. One life is like a whole world. And so there's all of these intricate laws about every single person who lives. So you kind of have to know, well, like, who's considered a human. And therefore, we're now going to say what is a human. So this question is, so by the way, this is what kind of creature would be considered human to have protection of the law, whether it's an alien from outer space or created in a lab. when does it get its human characteristics? So here we're gonna break it down. So it's rooted in the Talmud, and Judaism asked this question 2,000 years ago. You have a question? Okay, thanks for coming. Of course, that's for you. Absolutely. Of course. So no, that video is just a 5 minute. I'm gonna send it. So I'll send you the recording. What is the fundamental nature of humanity? Now we're going to go to the Jerusalem Talmud, which is chapter Nida 3:2. You want to read that?
Okay. Rabbi Yassa states in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, if a creature has a human body, but its face is of an animal, it is not human. If a creature has an animal body, but its face is human, it is human.
Okay, so this is talking about it's a discussion of ritual purity and impurity. It's asking like who is pure and who is impure. And so what it was discussing before this is at what point is a woman who miscarries, what point is the fetus considered a human being, and that the laws would apply? Because if you're a Kohen, a priest, then you're not allowed to come in contact with a dead body. So the question is, if a woman miscarries, at what stage is the fetus considered a human that person? So very sad is that my family, not I, because I'm a woman, so you go by what your husband is, but all my brothers and my dad are Kohanim. And so they can never go to a cemetery unless they're surrounded by a box. We'll get to that later. But anyway, because you're not allowed to be in direct contact. So if you're completely surrounded by something, so they made these boxes that you like hold on to, and that's how you're able to like go to the Rebbe's gravesite. So to the Ohel, exactly. So it was very sad because my sister-in-law had triplets and she lost them. She lost two of them. One of them she was able to give birth to. And so this was a huge discussion because he wasn't allowed to be in the room when she was giving birth because he's a Kohen and she was delivering a baby that was not alive. So they had these intense discussions with all these rabbis, like, well, because she was very early, but so it's like, when is it considered a fetus? So that's what the Talmud is talking about. So at what point is it considered human? So it explains it, and then right after that, it goes on to talk about living creatures that seem to be human. So, so basically, it's like a thought experiment. That even though it's not an actual experiment that anybody would do, it's a thought experiment. So, for example, it says if you walk through a cemetery, then you are tameh. You're not allowed. You're impure. You're not allowed to walk through a gravesite of dead bodies if you're a Kohen. But the Talmud asks, what if you would fly above the graves? Then are you allowed to? Like, you're not walking. And this was just a thought experiment because this was back in the days. In the Talmud, this is what the Talmud writes. What if you fly over the graveyard in a flying box? And so nowadays, right, we all do that. We all fly on planes and we all go over cemeteries, right, while we're flying. So we see how science fiction is reality delayed, right? Like things that just sounded ludicrous of flying through a box in the sky. That's exactly what an airplane is. It's just that we're used to it now, right? It's kind of like when our kids say, what? Like you used a paper and a pen? Like, or like a phone that's attached to the wall. So what they think is so crazy, like that's how we think of like flying cars, which is so, now that we have Waymos and all this other stuff and self-driving cars, 5 years ago, we thought that was crazy, right? So now flying cars doesn't sound so crazy anymore, right? So it's just a matter of time for all of these things. So in the olden days, the non-Jews would always try to find problems with the Torah in order to make fun of Jews. So they would always make fun of this part of like, oh, flying in a box over the gravesite. And then it was proven like everything is in the Torah. Many people think, well, like there was no technology back then, so not everything's included. But Hashem, God, is timeless, right? God is not. he knew what was going to happen in the future, and so everything is included, as you see from this example. Okay. Gosh, it's 8:35. So now, so we learned from this that we go by the face, right? That if a creature, if it has a human body, but its face is an animal, then it's not human. But if it has an animal body, but the face is human, it goes by that. So right now, that's our answer. We go by the face to know if it's a human or not. But now I'm just going to read because it's hard for the people on Zoom if people read. So now we're continuing. Yet suppose it is entirely human, but its face is animal-like, and it is learning Torah. Can one say to it, "Come and be slaughtered for me"? If it is entirely animal-like, but its face is human, and it is plowing the field, do we come and say to it, "Come and perform levirate marriage, yibum, and divorce, chalitza"? So it's taking it like one step further and saying like, okay, so are we going to treat it like an animal or human? So the conclusion of the Talmud is that a human is as a human does. So for example, if a child is born to human parents, no matter what, that's a human being. So God forbid if there's deformities, God forbid if there's challenges. And unfortunately, there's a lot of humans that are born to human parents that don't look beautifully human. They are absolutely 100% human, no matter what. That is clear. So the question is really just with creatures that we don't know where they come from. It could be an alien from another planet, or it could be created in a lab from DNA that's combined chromosomes from a human brain and an animal body. This is actually really, really interesting that they spent many of our tax dollars doing this research. Did anybody ever hear of this? That they were trying to combine some of the DNA from sled dogs, from huskies, to soldiers. Did you hear about this? Okay, so basically, I wrote this word for it because I gotta say it as it is. So humans have a limited capacity for running or going for a long time. Why? Because as you burn fat and muscle tissue, it also produces toxic byproducts. And so when you're let's say like in a marathon, you could only go up to a certain point and then you're done because of all of these toxins that are being produced. But they found that a sled dog, like a husky, is able to just keep going and going and going. They don't have these byproducts. They don't have that problem. They're able to metabolize their fat and muscle without toxin byproducts. So with all our tax dollars, they were trying to have a study to implant these characteristics of the sled dogs into soldiers who needed to be able to, keep going and be able to do things with extra strength. So here, this law really comes to life. Imagine having a body of a dog and the face of a human. Maybe that's why it's called husky. So this is happening all the time nowadays, that they're trying in labs to do the mixtures of people. So that's why these laws are coming much more into play of like what is considered human and what's considered. So now you have the answer that if it has a human face, then it is human. So then these questions about what about artificial life form, about like, as Rachel was just saying, that with all the incredible intelligence nowadays, I watched this whole documentary of how they could make babies like just out of like, forget IVF. This is like just in the lab, just with all this computer stuff. So listen to this. If like, let's say there was this robot that they created that like was so human like, and it just had like a robot. If it has a human brain, you wouldn't be able to pull the plug, like because there's still some human. So it's like really intricate laws. Yeah, exactly. So now we get to what the definition of a human being. We need to know what is a human being, because now we have all of this AI and all of this lab work and science and all these things that could create all these interesting beings. So the definition of a human being: Hashem created all of us in his image. So when he created beings other than humans, he spoke and it was like it was. When we read about all the creations that were created, it says and God spoke, and so it was. But when it comes to the sixth day of man, it says that God breathed the soul of Adam. So all the other creations was just speech, and Adam, which is all of us, creation of man, was actual breathing. What's the difference? The speech, it comes from outside, like, you could speak and speak and speak. Some people could talk on and on, and you don't get tired. But with breath, you have to stop and take a breath. You can't keep on going. Why? Because it's coming from inside. So God created us within his image, and that means we touched on this before, but now we're going to get more into the detail, that we have free choice. Humans are the only ones who can learn Torah, and that includes the three things. Number one, so this is the difference. This is the actual definition of a human being. We said before that all humans are we need the Torah, right? So now what does having the Torah mean? It includes the three things. Number one, the ability to engage in abstract reasoning. It's our ability to discuss and understand, communicate things that aren't concrete or part of our memory or sensory experience. Number two, Torah milashon hora'ah. What does that mean? That Torah comes from the word hora'ah, which means lesson. So we have to do what's right and negate what is wrong. That it's not just about like a storybook or things that happen. We have to actually do the mitzvot, the positive commandments, and we have to not do the negative commandments. So it's about moral judgment, moral agency, and free will. In order to be able to do these mitzvot, we have the free will, because God says you should keep the Shabbat, and then we have free will if we're going to do it or not. But in the same Torah, God also says do not kill, and do not steal, and do not do adultery, and do not hurt other beings, right? So we have moral, ethical laws, and we also have laws that are between us and God. But all of them, we need to use our moral judgment, and we also have our free will. Number three is that it demands communication. It's acquired through teaching, through through discussing and through transmission. So when we talk about animals, there are many, many incredible, intelligent animals, right? Many people think like dogs and apes and, right? Like a lot of people think that some animals are almost humans, but the difference is that animals can be trained to do behaviors of humans, but they don't have free choice, and they can't do any of these three things. So these are the three things. Number one, the ability to engage in abstract reasoning. That means to be able to communicate, discuss, like figure things out. Number two is doing what's right, negating what's wrong. So choosing between good and bad. And number three is communicating, like being able to discuss with others, teaching, right? Like dogs have dog language, but I don't know if they're discussing the rights and wrongs of the Torah, So the animals can be really bright, but they can't do those three. And that's how, this is the answer, that's how we judge creatures from outer space or anything. So all those answers about if things are created in the DNA lab and all, the end of the day is, does it have these three things? Does this being, this created being, have a face, number one, and number two, have free choice and have these three things? That is what the Torah has. And that, having these three things, makes us understand our own values. So now we come to this part of what the answer to the Rebbe was to the other person that asked about understanding outer space. The real question is not, is there life in outer space, but is there life in our inner space? We all have the intelligence, the capability, the technology. We have interfaces. We have the ability to do so much good. What could we do on the internet these days? Yes, there's a lot of destructive things you could do. Yes, it's a time waster. Yes, there's a lot of bashing and political stuff and a lot of not good stuff. But let's focus on, God gave us this as a gift. Do you know how many amazing things you could do with technology? It is absolutely mind-boggling. And the more you're good at technology, the more you know that you could do. But even just simple things like learning Torah every day, like going online and being able to learn, that is using technology for the good. You could gather people together. You could do Zoom calls. You could find cures for things. Medical thing, like there's just an endless amount of stuff we could use it for. So instead of everybody just using the intelligence to try to find out about life, using billions and trillions of dollars trying to find out if there's life in outer space. We should be using all of this money to try to find about our inner space, how we can make it a better place, how we can, do more with God. And so the Rebbe speaks about the importance of education, because as we see in a negative way, that, for example, Palestinians, how they're brought up, their education teaches them how they should look at Jews and how they should treat Jewish people. That is their education. So when we are educated properly and using all of these tools and the intelligence and the technology properly, we're able to educate ourselves and educate others what is proper way of living in this world and of serving God. So what the Rebbe is saying here is that the intelligence and everything that God gave us, it's important to look at outer space only if that's going to help us to realize how great we are. That if God could create all of these beings and all these planets and all of these celestial beings, how much more so how we are so special, how we're so important, like every little worm and everything, right? So in the 1950s, when the Rebbe became the Rebbe, he gave a talk, and he said there's 3 different ways that Jews can behave. Either number one, this is what happened after the war. This is the 1950s was after the Holocaust, and many people left Europe and came to America and wanted to assimilate and say, we don't want to have anything to do with Judaism. So the Rebbe was saying that's choice number one, just to embrace the new intelligence and say, we don't need to go to the archaic Torah, right? We're going to go to the new and improved science and technology and the world, and we don't want to know from the Torah. The second way is which happens nowadays with the ultra orthodox, which is ignore all technology. It's taking us away from God. It could bring you to do the wrong things. It could be destructive, so let's shy away from all technology. Let's not have any of that stuff. Let's just stay insular and, not engage in worldly matters. That's the second way. And the third thing is the balance. And that's what the Rebbe said, that number one is not good and number two is not good. The point is that God created all of these things because he wants us to use it, use this intelligence and technology for the good. So you can't just say, oh, if I am going to use the computers, it will take me to the wrong thing. No, we need to have that strength and inner willpower to be able to use it for the right things. And by using it for the right things, that is what real inner space is, that we're discovering life in inner space. So a man once came to the Rebbe and he said, I'm really upset that we're wasting all of our tax dollars on all of this space exploration, like all the spacecrafts and telescopes and everything. And the Rebbe said, actually, it's a very good use of our resources. The science spends, the government spends so much of our money on things that might not necessarily be good, but this is a good use. Why? Because human beings have a fundamental obligation to understand everything about the universe that we can. Because it says in the Torah, the core, here Maimonides says, the core, this is the bottom of page 4, the core of all mitzvot is to love and fear God. That means not fear as in like I'm scared of God, but it means to have an awe of God, like that God is so awesome. And every positive mitzvah that we do is an act of union with Hashem, with God. And every negative mitzvah that we don't do, like we stay away from, is the desire not to be disconnected from the source of our life. Now, how are you supposed to love and fear God? How are you supposed to have an awe for God? The more that we learn about the universe, the more we are like, wow. And I could just tell you, my father, he was so into something called Niflos Habore, which means the wonders of the Creator. He just he did this his whole life. He was a teacher, so he would bring animals into the class and show, like he would dissect a frog and he would take the cow's lung and blow it up. And we never knew what we were going to bump into when we came to their house to visit. He had walking sticks, like, and each like just creatures all like everywhere. Like if you open the freezer, there was lots of stuff there. And his whole thing was that his way of teaching was he would just say, wow, this is so incredible. Why did he love it? Not because it was so interesting. He did it. He was so interested in how amazing Hashem is, how incredible. Like when he would hatch chicks with the class, like whoever was his class that year, he would bring the eggs in the incubator and turn it, and then he would take a flashlight and he would put the eggs on the flashlight and turn the eggs, and he would show how it's growing in the egg, and he would say, wow, like this is so amazing. Hashem, God is so incredible that he's able to make a chick come out of this egg. And like we see it through an incubator, but a chicken or a hen is sitting on this and being able to do this, and it has to sit for all of these days and keep and turn it, and just like it's so miraculous and incredible and amazing, every single thing. So what the Rebbe was saying was, the more that money that we're putting into finding out about animals and about creation and about other universes and the stars and the solar system and everything like that, what does that do? That is like, wow, God is so powerful. God is so amazing. From the tiniest worm to the greatest galaxy, that just gives us a greater appreciation for God. So in order to fulfill everything that Maimonides says, I'll just read it because of the Zoom. What is the path to attain love and fear of him? We're on page 5. When a person contemplates his wondrous and great deeds and creations and appreciates his infinite wisdom that surpasses all comparison, he will immediately love, praise, and glorify him, yearning with tremendous desire to know God's great name. As David stated, my soul thirsts for the Lord, for the living God. So that's exactly what we just said before. Just knowing all of these incredible things, that is going to help us with having this amazing way of looking at God, and then realizing how great we are. So the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, says that the reason that we say praises of God and creation, he asks, what's the reason why we need to sing praise to God? Is God this insecure? Like every day in our prayers, when we do Shacharit Mincha Marav, we say, oh, God is so amazing and God is so powerful and God's the creator and he created heavens and earth, right? We keep saying all of these things. Is God that insecure that we keep needing to tell him, you're so great, you're so wonderful, right? God obviously is here. He doesn't need it. So why are we doing it? This is very, very powerful. Since each one of us is created in the image of Hashem, we need to learn and appreciate what we can do because we are created in his image. So the more that we see how God is able to do everything, obviously we are not God, but we're created in his image. That means that God could create something from nothing that we can't do, but we could take what God already put in this world and we could create it. We can't say, oh, there's obstacles in my way, or I'm not that type of person, or I don't think I could really do that. That just seems too crazy or too out of it for me to be able to do. God says, no, you can do it. The more that you read about, the more we're saying, wow, God, you did this, and you did that. That makes us realize I can do more also because I'm created in the image of God. And that's why it's important to learn more about God. So the Rebbe finishes off and says to this man, this is why it's not wasted money. So the universe is so huge, we can't even imagine all these details of the planets and the worlds, and all the explanations are just to show us Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, that the entire, it says in Pirkei Avot, the whole world, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, that the whole world and the universe and everything, all the celestial beings, all created just for me. So you can imagine that God made this entire world with trillions of people and galaxies and all these creations, yet the whole world, everything was created just for me, just for you, just for you. Each one of us has to look at it as the whole world is created for me. Why? We're not supposed to be that egotistical, but it's supposed to make us realize how important we are. We matter. what we do matters. And that's the whole idea, that we shouldn't just be spending our whole time, what about outer space? We need to talk about inner space. I matter. What am I doing to bring godliness into this world, to make this place a better place, to take all of this wisdom and intelligence that God gave and bring it to do better in this world, to bring people to unite people, to bring, more brotherly love and do more mitzvot. So this should give us a glimpse into how important each one of us on earth here. The vastness of the universe and the life on other planets, that's very interesting, but the real intention is our life. So the conclusion is that everything we do needs to lead to something practical. So are we utilizing our resources, our time, our influence, and the technology in a way that makes the world better and more, and connect us more to Hashem and to each other? Maimonides says that the ultimate goal of the world is messianic perfection. And we always talk about Mashiach is going to come, Mashiach is going to come. That's when there's going to be no hatred, and everybody's going to get along with each other, and that the glory of God is going to be known everywhere. So if we would live this life now, that we are looking for God through all the wisdom, technology, intelligence that we have now, then we are already living the messianic life. And we could see from like the airplane and from all of these experiments and all the things that were prophesied way back then are happening now. We're actually living the messianic age right now. And so it says that we don't need to see miracles in order for Messiah to come, for Mashiach to come. It could just happen naturally, which is now. This is our messianic age. So we all have this power to use all of the intelligence and everything to make this world a better place and bring Mashiach actually, in that it's not just the messianic age, but that it comes practically. So we'll just end off with Jewish thought. We're reading the last part of page 5. Jewish thought has always believed that the most weird and wonderful creatures are to be found right here on earth. We can explore the remotest extremities of space, but still remain alien to our own humanity. The real secrets of the universe lie hidden in the depths of the human soul. So if you want, I'm going to stop the recording, but I could just end off about angels. It's quick, unless you want to stop and do questions. I want to say something about my dog. So 1 second. Let me just, should we just finish off about the angels? I just don't want to lose this. I'm saving it. Okay, so some people ask the questions about aliens, and that like we started at the beginning of the class about. People ask about the angels. So angels are conduits of energy. They don't have physical or metaphysical properties. The Ramban, Nachmanides, writes that there are 4 elements in this world. Every single created being is made from these 4 elements. It's a combination of all 4. So the 4 elements are Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Afar. Fire, wind, water, and dust. So earth and water, you need to have at least earth and water to make anything tangible. So any object or inanimate object or living thing has a combination of earth and water. Angels only have fire and wind. So this means that there are other forms of life, which is like angels, but they have other properties. So it's just like an interesting take on the other beings. So it could be that there's other beings that are angel-like, or other things that are just not created with all 4 elements, that are just created with the fire and wind. So the Torah talks about how Abraham met the angels in real life. It says it in the Torah that he met the angel, right? So it's not that he just met the angel in a spiritual sense, but that he physically met the angels, right? The 3 angels came to visit him when he had his Brit Milah. So he physically saw the angels. So it just shows how these were angelic creatures, so to speak, but they came in human form. So that's how that's explaining that. So the angels can vest themselves in these two properties to reveal themselves in a particular way. So that's why so this is going back to the whole idea of Maimonides and Nachmanides, how it does not rule out the idea of aliens, so to speak, or these celestial beings, because as we learned from the Torah, that the angels were able to vest themselves in a physical body. So there could be a possibility of these, forms being created on other planets. And right, because stars are planets and there's millions of stars. So you could have these beings that could then vest themselves. So get ready, you might meet a Martian walking down the street. Also, and a person could see an apparition, right? Sometimes like people are seeing ghosts and demons or like these apparitions and that's because it's made out of the fire or wind. And they're able to vest themselves into these elements. And that's how they're able to appear to people. And that, my dear friends, I can't even believe it. It's 9 o'clock on the button. I don't think I've ever got through a long class in an hour and a half. Actually less, because we started pretty late. Okay, so now now that we did that, I can try to answer questions or take comments and thoughts and things that you want to share. For those of you on Zoom, you can, first we're going to do everyone who's here in person, but feel free to stay on and you could unmute yourself afterwards. Okay, Jandy, you're up first.
I was in an accident in Arizona and I was hit by a big car, my car, and it crushed my elbow like it was like rice in there. And when I came back to California, they had me in a half cast and the doctor would not be able to fix it. He says, you're just gonna have to walk like that the rest of your life. I had a dog at the time, little mini Schnauzer. She came when I was taking a shower one day and she took this little toss and floss, which is strings and knots, and she put it on the rug in front of me and looked at me. I swear, I think she was ESP or whatever you call it, thinking to me. And she looked at me and she then with her tail up in the air and, you want to play? And so she looked at me and picked up that thing and put it down again. So I thought, oh.
So Jandy, that's different. Remember we spoke about reincarnations? This is,
I think that dog was.
right, but this is a whole different subject. This is not reincarnation because that is an actual dog. Yeah. We're talking about creations that are not an animal and not a person, right?
Yeah.
So that would be that is like a whole different, like what we spoke about when we did reincarnation. That is a true thing. So thank you for sharing. But I just wanted to like show how it's different. We don't actually see UFOs and Martians because, as we were saying, that we can't rule it out, but we don't see that nowadays. Did somebody else have a question, comment, or yeah?
Oh, I remember when I was a kid, comic strip. That was it. It was newspaper had a comic strip.
Okay, so enlighten us, 'cause not everybody knows it, or at least me. I don't know it.
Where he was talking to people in the area or at the office, at the police station through his watch.
And then people thought it was crazy.
Yeah, wow.
I actually still think it's crazy when I see people talking to their watch and their whatever. Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's ever watched or listened to TikTok, but a couple of years ago, I was on just watching it, and there was this gentleman talking to his younger daughter about a telephone, and it was a rotary phone, and she was used to her cellular phone, and she was pushing the holes in the buttons to try to make it dial. And it's just, it's about a year or so ago, but just going through different things, how do you talk and, how do you communicate with it? how you push the buttons. No, no,
Right. Well, they have like a whole series about it, of like making classes of all how we lived in the olden days. Go for it.
Was Deborah.
Well, this is the prophet.
Yes.
Oh, so I
From
don't
what-
know exactly.
Well, was ancient,
This is
BC of at least
yeah.
2000 or
So
something.
this is the times of the prophets was after like Moshe and Joshua was after they went into the land of Israel.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
so
I just wanted to say something. Okay, this verse, the prophet kings of Canaan and Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo, but there was a Megiddo. It's a, I know where it is. And
what do you mean? But yeah, that's what it is.
yeah, Megiddo. But it's just proving, again, that we lived there
Yes,
thousands of years ago.
exactly.
I happen to know a guy named Rick Megiddo, that's his name. And he really, I found something that somebody was actually talking about this town that was there, and that's his family name. But anyway, it just proves again that
Yes,
we
absolutely.
belong there thousands of years
Yes,
ago.
and yeah, everything is written in Tanakh of like all the cities and that.
But
Yeah.
they're really, I don't know if they still have it today. Probably not. But
Well, it's probably just called something else. But yes, we still have it. Any other questions, comments? I love how you're saying you. That you know what, you could either love it or hate it, but it's here, so you have a choice. You could either just fight it, what's the word, you could either fight it or embrace it, so you may as well embrace it because there's no reason to fight it. So it always takes extra time for, it's kind of just like a new style, like first you see the style and you're like, ew, I hate it, and then it grows. My sisters always make fun of me that I start wearing the style when it's already out, right? Because what happens is at first it's just like, ooh, then you get used to it because you see it so much, and then you finally embrace it. So with technology, it's the same thing. It's like at first it's like, whoa, overwhelming. Like, how do you do this? And then you slowly get used to it, and then the next thing comes out and you're overwhelmed all over again. So you could just be steps behind everyone. You don't have to be on you know, but I just found this amazing thing today that helped me prepare this class, which is so, so exciting. I'm like watching videos because a lot of the presentations are done by video. So I'm like, how am I going to get this class done in time if I have to watch 8 videos that are each 1 hour long? And then I'm like taking notes. So I'm pausing and writing notes. And I was like really stressing about, like, I spent many more hours. So I was like, how am I going to get this all done in time? And then my husband tells me that you could go, any video that's on YouTube, you could transcribe it. So then you have it all and you could just copy and paste, like I have everything there and just read it. I was like, oh my, that like really changed. So sometimes like technology, like it sounds like too much. And then sometimes it's just there to save you hours and hours. So I was always against AI. Well, with AI, you could just press into Google Chat GPT and it will come up and say, what can I help you with? And you could just ask it anything. Like Chat GPT is just a artificial intelligence. It's one of the modes.
Write me something on, real estate, and
You can literally ask it anything and it will write, give me a 10-page essay on the wonders of creation, and it will give you the most beautiful, no, but anything and everything you could ask it. Oh, you could just on Google, just type in Chat GPT, or you could do AI. And on your phone, like let's say WhatsApp, on WhatsApp at the top, if you go here, you see it says ask Meta AI or search. So you could just ask anything. You could just go like that and ask, you just press this and say, what is
give
the
you a big long answer.
what is the definition of metaphysical. It can't do it while I'm on Zoom, but the point is that you could do anything. Anybody, and thank you for joining on Zoom. Do any of you have questions? You want to unmute yourself if you, Rena, you have a question? No, you just wanted to say hi? Great to see you. Thank you for having your video on. It's nicer to see a person than circle and however they show people, a circle and a oval. Anyway, so next week, what we were supposed to do astrology and astronomy this week, but when we had the Friday night Shabbat dinner with the college students, I was telling them about it, and Finn, and together with 3 other people who were supposed to come, they're students, right? They're teenagers. They said, oh, well, we want to go to the aliens one. So then I was like, they're not going to end up coming if it's a whole week away. So I'm like, you know what? I'll do the aliens one first, and then all of you guys who are coming anyway will just come back, and the people who were not going to come will come. So anyway, so next week, even if you are not into, astronomy, astrology, we're going to cover all the stuff about looking in the stars and what Torah view is about that, about, constellations and stars and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So let me see if you I'm gonna send it, but I don't have, everyone just RSVP'd privately, so I just need to I'll just remember everyone who was here and then email. But here, let me just play it. It's a 4-minute video. I'll just play it now.